Throughout the years, music has had a large influence on American culture. There's rock and roll, which finally gave teens a voice.
Pop music had large fan bases, and country helped shape the South.
Country music has its roots in the folk music traditions brought to the United States by European immigrants. In the 18th century, folk music was the music of British immigrants who came and settled the new colonies. It was from this music that country emerged as a music industry genre in the 1920s. The hillbilly music that was the foundation of the development of country music came from several different sources, including ballads, religious music, and instrumental music. In the 1930s, the most prominent derivative of country music were cowboy songs that included romantic songs about the Old West sung by cowboys and cowgirls in fringed, rhinestone-studded outfits and hats. Popular musicians in this genre include Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, and the Riders in the Sky. Honky-tonk music thrived during the 1940s as well. This genre consisted of rhythm-based edge appropriate for dancing and drinking. Ray Price and Carl Smith were big members of honky-tonk music. In the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, Nashville, Tennessee became the center of country music. Recording artists tried to create music reflecting country's roots while at the same time trying to absorb elements of the popular culture. The songs were usually performed in pop style and were designed to appeal both country and pop audiences. Some of the artists at this time include Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, and Loretta Lynn. Contemporary country, or new country, became extremely popular in the 80s. Artists in this genre include Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, George Strait, Travis Tritt, and Kenny Chesney. By this time, artists had completely moved out of the traditional country ways and started to become more pop, like Taylor Swift. Some of these artists also include Faith Hill, Rascal Flatts, and Carrie Underwood. While earlier music placed an emphasis on sound, pop music tried to relay an emotional story. This allowed people to feel connected to the music as if it were their own story. Johnny Ray was especially known for his emotional songs that showcased angst that teenagers felt. This led to the big fan crowd of younger people, much like what Frank Sinatra had. Peggy Lee and Frances Dinah Shore were both instrumental in opening the way for other women to be famous solo singers, not just in bands. Billy Eckstine was one of the first black vocalists able to compete with white singers, so he led the way for the other African Americans in the pop music industry. The Jackson 5 were both teenagers and African American and appealed to America. Much like the Osmonds, they proved that young people can be successful, but also that African Americans could be successful as well. The Monkees were like the Osmonds and the Jackson 5, but they had their own TV show, so that showed that musicians could branch out into other forms of fame and gain more fans. The 1970s and 80s saw some of the arrival of the first boy bands. Groups like the Jackson 5 were known as music bands, but it wasn't until New Kids on the Block that boy bands became a thing. They, like the Beatles, caused mass hysteria in their fan groups. The Kinks song Lola was revolutionary as it reflected the sexual and gay rights revolution. The song is presumably about a transgender named Lola, and its casual approach to sexuality was practically unheard of. The young Latin boy band Menudo wasn't too famous in America in the 80s, but they did gain some popularity. This paved the way for musicians from other places around the world to come to America, not just Europeans. New Edition was an American boy band like the Jackson 5, and they helped prove to America that the music industry wasn't just for white people. Michael Jackson introduced dance with his music and changed the legacy of pop music. During the 1990s, pop music became really popular. Two of the biggest boy bands rose to fame during this time, NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. These bands changed the view in society on how men should be. They showed that it wasn't necessarily unmanly to do things like dance or express your feelings, which they did through their music. They also had a very large fan base of teenage girls, which altered the way girls viewed other guys their age. Boys to Men were another African-American vocal group, so they just furthered the integration of the music and fame industry. Westlife was an Irish boy band, so they represented the spread of pop music worldwide, and were another case of foreign groups like the Beatles making it famous in America. With shows like High School Musical and Camp Rock, groups like the Jonas Brothers furthered the spread of pop music to younger kids. Britney Spears songs were sometimes more inappropriate in parents' views, but they set an example for younger women to be more independent and make their own choices. Lady Gaga shocked the world with her unique fashion sense and personality, and influenced her fans to accept who they truly are, and that's okay to be different. Justin Bieber became famous through YouTube, which led to thousands of other teens making YouTube videos of their own talent, hoping to become famous as well. Austin Mahone gained his fame this way, as well as the Australian pop rock band 5 Seconds of Summer, who were discovered by One Direction member Louis Tomlinson, who saw one of their videos and asked them to go on tour with them. Justin Timberlake caused hysteria among his NSYNC fans when he revived his career. Some American teenagers even became interested in music in a different language, like K-pop. H.O.T. was one of the first South Korean boy bands to make it famous in America. The fact that this music was in a completely different language made the American fans more open-minded and accepting of other cultures. With British boy bands like One Direction and The Wanted during current times, teenage fans, mainly girls, obsessed over them. Parents started paying more money on concert tickets and brand merchandise than other gifts. Some teens were even more motivated to get jobs to afford these things. The same thing is true for K-pop bands, like Girls' Generation and Big Bang. Other boy bands, like 5 Seconds of Summer, specifically write their lyrics directed toward their fans. Adele appealed to the emotions of teenagers with her emotional songs about love. Altogether, pop music now influences teens in their opinions on things, how they express their emotions, and it serves to excite them at parties. Rock and roll made its first appearance in the 1940s and early 1950s. It was primarily derived from a combination of African blues and a western swing of country. Rock music was originally heavy on the piano or sax as lead instruments, but as technology evolved, the electric guitar became the most common instrument. As the music gained its popularity, it began to have different sections of sound, such as rockabilly, which had figures like Elvis and Barry, who drew primarily on the country aspects of music, and doo-wop, which had the energetic expression of music, including the popular jump blues. The variety of musicians led some people to see rock music as the herald to the end of segregation, even though many racist whites were initially against the music that dared to have white people listening to the black music that was the backbone to rock. Rock and roll was also one of the first types of music to have a definitive target age group, teenagers. Rock music helped teens feel a sense of belonging, even if they were alone. Many people found themselves copying the popular styles of music and emotion and appearance used by singers, such as Elvis hair. The whole thing was a source of concern for the elder age groups, partially because rock was shared by different racial groups, and that was bad. Many fans of music loved to express themselves through the popular styles of dance that went with the music, coined jitterbug style. The musicians were also able to describe differing backgrounds, which gave hope to that anyone could be a star like they were. Jimi Hendrix was known for his eccentric guitar playing. He even played the Star-Spangled Banner in Woodstock. AC/DC was loved for its uncomplicated approach to music. Originally from Australia, the band had extra adoration from its humble origins and Angus Young's schoolboy uniform. Their song Highway to Hell was especially popular. Metallica, Aerosmith, and Kiss used eccentric face makeup, and parents believed that they influenced children to act rebelliously. The kids themselves only thought that they were using the music to express themselves. Every band that existed has been able to be a role model for the bands that are popular today. Without these musicians, rock and roll may have been nothing more than a passing fling. In the pop music industry. I don't know what to do with him right now. And I need to adjust the papers from bands. It was just mixed with rock as well. He's blocking a huge piece of the sky. And they helped prove to America that more than one black... I don't know what it says right now. It portrayed them as normal people. Other boy bands, like 5SOS, specifically write their lyrics...
No! No!
...their emotions, and it serves to excite them at parties.
At parties.
Rock and roll was the key to racial desegregation, even though many racist whites were initially against the music that dared to have white people listen to the black music that was the backbone to rock. I said that really badly.